It was a quiet morning when I decided to visit my son's grave. The air was heavy with mist, and the wind carried the faint scent of rain and roses from the nearby garden. I came here often, not because I found peace, but because I was still searching for it. Every time I knelt beside his tombstone, it felt like my heart cracked open all over again. He had been gone for 3 years, 3 long, unbearable years since the accident that took him away. My son, Daniel, was only 34, too young, too full of dreams. I still remembered his laughter, his voice calling me Mom in that soft, teasing tone that always melted my heart. Losing him was like losing the air I breathed. That morning, I brought fresh white lilies, his favorite. I brushed the dirt off the grave and whispered, "I still miss you, my boy." My voice trembled. "You'd be proud of your siblings, though they hardly ever come here anymore." I tried to smile, but the emptiness inside me was growing heavier each day. I thought I was alone there, until I heard the soft sound of footsteps behind me. When I turned, I saw a woman standing a few feet away. She was young, maybe in her late 20s, her clothes old and worn. Beside her stood a little boy, about 5 years old, clutching her hand. Something about the child caught my eye instantly. His hair, his eyes, even the way he tilted his head when he looked up. It all felt familiar. My breath caught in my throat. The woman looked startled when she noticed me staring. She quickly pulled the boy closer, as if trying to shield him from my gaze. "Come on, sweetheart," she whispered to him nervously. "We need to go." But before she could walk away, the boy broke free from her hand and ran toward the grave, my son's grave. He stopped in front of the tombstone and gently placed his small hand on the cold marble. Then, in a soft, trembling voice, he whispered one word that made my entire body freeze. "Daddy." I felt the ground shift beneath me. The air left my lungs. I couldn't believe what I just heard. The woman rushed to grab him, her eyes wide with fear. "I told you not to do that," she hissed, pulling him back. I stood there frozen, my heart pounding in my chest. "What did he just say?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Why did he call my son Daddy?" The woman didn't answer. She just turned away, holding the boy tightly. But before she could escape, I stepped closer. "Please," I begged, "tell me the truth. Who are you?" She looked at me with trembling lips and tear-filled eyes. I can't," she whispered. I promised I wouldn't. And with that, she turned and ran, disappearing down the narrow cemetery path, the boy's small voice echoing behind her. "Mommy, wait!" I stood there alone, my heart shattering all over again, realizing that my son had kept a secret from me. One even death couldn't bury. I couldn't move for a long time. The boy's voice kept echoing in my mind. Daddy. That single word had ripped open every wound I thought had healed. I stared at my son's grave, trembling, confusion and disbelief twisting inside me. Could it be true? Could that little boy really be Daniel's son? I tried to push the thought away, but his face wouldn't leave my mind. The same deep brown eyes, the same dimpled smile Daniel had when he was little. It was like seeing my son reborn. My hands were shaking as I whispered to the gravestone, "Why didn't you tell me, Daniel? Why didn't anyone tell me?" By the time I left the cemetery, I was no longer just grieving. I was desperate for answers. When I got home, I called my oldest daughter, Melissa. She answered after the 3rd ring. "Mom, are you okay?" she asked, her voice calm but distant. "No, I'm not," I said sharply. "I went to Daniel's grave today. There was a woman there, with a little boy. He called Daniel Daddy. Silence, the kind that screams louder than any words." "Melissa?" I pressed. "Do you know something about this?" She exhaled slowly. "Mom, please don't get yourself worked up." "Don't get worked up?" I snapped. "Are you telling me my son had a child, my grandson, and none of you told me?" "Mom, it's complicated," she said softly. "Just leave it alone." "Complicated?" I shouted. "I buried my son thinking he died alone, with no one left behind. Now you're telling me there's a child out there, and you expect me to just ignore that?" Melissa's voice trembled. "I promised Daniel, Mom. He didn't want you to know." Her words hit me like ice. "He didn't want me to know? Why?" Before she could answer, I heard her quietly crying. "He had his reasons. Please, Mom, don't go looking for them. Just let it rest." But how could I? My son's secret child was out there somewhere, being hidden from me. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that little boy's face. The sadness in the woman's eyes, the fear in her voice. Something wasn't right. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I was going to find her. I went back to the cemetery, hoping she might return. For hours I waited, pacing along the rows of graves. Finally, as the sun began to set, I saw her again, standing near the far end of the cemetery, holding the boy close. This time I didn't hide. I walked straight toward her. She saw me and froze like a deer caught in headlights. "Please," I said gently, holding up my hands. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to talk." She looked down at the boy, then back at me. "You shouldn't have come." "I need to know the truth," I whispered. "Is he my grandson?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Yes," she said finally, her voice breaking. "He's your son's child." My knees went weak. I clutched the nearest gravestone to steady myself. "But why?" I asked through tears. "Why did Daniel hide him from me?" She hesitated, glancing around nervously as if someone might be watching. Then in a trembling whisper she said, "Because your son was running from something, Mrs. Cooper, and if anyone found out about us, that little boy wouldn't be safe." The air went cold. My world tilted again. "What was he running from?" I asked. She looked at me, eyes wide with fear. "From the people who killed him." Her words hit me like lightning. "The people who killed him?" I stared at her, my voice trembling. "What do you mean, killed him?" "The police said it was an accident. His car went off the bridge." She looked down at the little boy clinging to her leg. "That's what everyone was supposed to believe," she whispered. "Daniel didn't die in an accident. He was being hunted, and when they couldn't get to me or the child, they made sure he never spoke again." I felt my whole body go numb. "Hunted? By who?" She looked over her shoulder, scanning the cemetery. Her fear was raw, real. "We can't talk here," she said quickly. "Please follow me. Somewhere safe." Against every instinct I nodded. I needed answers, no matter how dark they were. We walked for about 10 minutes to a small, worn-down apartment building near the edge of town. She led me up a narrow staircase to a room that looked barely lived in. 2 chairs, a faded couch, and a few scattered toys. The little boy ran to a corner and began drawing quietly on the floor. She motioned for me to sit. "My name is Emily," she said softly. "And your son." Daniel was the only man who ever truly cared about me. Her eyes filled with tears. I met him 6 years ago when I worked at his company. I was young, naive. He was kind, charming, and broken in ways I didn't understand. He told me things about people he'd gotten involved with, about money that wasn't clean. At first, I didn't believe him, but then strange things started happening. His car was followed. He got threatening calls. My breath caught. Daniel was mixed up in something illegal? She nodded. He didn't want to be. He said he'd made a mistake, invested money for the wrong people. When he tried to back out, they warned him there'd be consequences. That's when he told me to leave town with our baby. He said, "If anything happens to me, promise me you'll protect him and never let my family get involved." Tears burned my eyes. "So that's why my other children knew. They were trying to keep me safe." "Yes," she whispered. "Daniel trusted them. He didn't want you to suffer the same fear we did." I leaned back in my chair, the weight of it all pressing on my chest. "And what happened that night?" "The night he died?" Emily's face turned pale. "He was supposed to meet someone, a man who claimed he could help him disappear. I begged him not to go, but he said he couldn't keep running forever. That night, his car went off the bridge. But before it happened, he called me. He said, 'They found me, Emily. Take care of him. Tell Mom I'm sorry.'" Her voice cracked, tears spilling down her cheeks. After that, the line went dead. I sat in stunned silence, my hands trembling. Every memory of my son, his laughter, his kindness, his secrets, came flooding back with new meaning. For 3 years, I'd grieved a son I thought I knew. But now I was realizing I had only known half his life. I looked over at the little boy. He was staring at me now, his big brown eyes full of innocence. "What's his name?" I asked softly. "Eli," she said. "It's what Daniel wanted to call him. It means, my God." Eli smiled shyly at me, and for a moment, it was as if Daniel himself was looking back through those eyes. My heart broke and healed at the same time. But before I could say another word, there was a loud knock on the door. Emily's eyes widened. She froze. "They found us," she whispered. The knock came again, louder this time, more urgent. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. Emily's face drained of color. She quickly grabbed Eli and pulled him close. "Don't make a sound," she whispered. The room fell into dead silence. Another knock echoed through the thin walls, followed by a man's voice, calm, deep, but chilling. Emily, open the door. We just want to talk. I could see her shaking. No, she mouthed, backing away slowly. Emily, the voice repeated, this time harder. You don't want us to come in. I looked toward the door. Shadows moved under the crack. More than one person. My instincts screamed run, but there was nowhere to go. The apartment had only one exit. I grabbed Emily's arm. Is there a back way out? I whispered. She nodded toward a small window behind the kitchen counter. It was narrow, but maybe just enough for the boy to fit through. Take him, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Get him out of here. What about you? I hissed. I'll distract them. No, I said firmly. I'm not leaving you behind. Before I could argue more, the door handle rattled violently. Someone kicked the door, once, twice. The wood cracked. Eli whimpered softly. I crouched down and put my hands on his cheeks. It's okay, sweetheart, I whispered. I'm going to take care of you. The door burst open. 3 men stepped inside. One of them wore a leather jacket, his face half hidden by a cap. His eyes scanned the room until they landed on Emily. Going somewhere? He asked coldly. Emily stood tall despite her fear. You don't have to do this. He's gone. You already got what you wanted. The man smirked. We didn't get the files, Emily. The ones Daniel took before he died. You think we'd just let that go? Files. My heart sank. Whatever my son had been involved in, it wasn't just money. It was something bigger. I don't have them, Emily said. He never told me where they are. The man took a slow step closer. Then maybe your son knows. I held Eli tightly, praying they wouldn't notice us in the dim light. But one of the other men turned his head toward the kitchen, and his eyes locked on me. Hey, he shouted. Emily screamed, Run! I grabbed Eli and dashed toward the window. I shoved it open, glass scraping my arms, but I didn't care. I helped him climb through first. Behind me I heard chaos, shouts, footsteps, the sound of something crashing. Then a hand grabbed my shoulder and yanked me back. I spun around, terrified, to see the man in the leather jacket glaring at me. Where do you think you're going, lady? Before he could pull me away, Emily hurled a lamp at him. It shattered across his arm, sparks flying. Go, she screamed. Go now! I climbed through the window and fell onto the alley ground outside. Eli was crying, clutching my arm. Mommy, he sobbed. I turned back just in time to see Emily's face through the window. Pale, terrified but brave. She mouthed one word to me, run. And then, there was a gunshot. I screamed, but before I could climb back in, hands pulled me away. It was a neighbor, an old man who'd heard the noise. You can't go in there? He yelled. They'll kill you too! Tears blurred my vision as I held Eli tight, running down the dark alley as sirens began to wail in the distance. My mind was spinning, my heart breaking. I had just watched another part of my son's secret world collapse in front of me. And now, his child, his only son, was the last piece of him left alive. I whispered to Eli as we hid behind an abandoned car. I promise you, I won't let them take you too. He looked up at me, tears shining in his little eyes. Are you going to save me, Grandma? That single word, Grandma, broke something inside me, but it also gave me strength. Yes, I whispered fiercely, I am. The sirens grew louder. Somewhere behind us, the apartment erupted in flames. And I realized this wasn't just about uncovering Daniel's secret anymore. It was about surviving it. We ran until our legs gave out. The night air was thick and humid, filled with the sound of distant sirens and the faint crackle of fire. I held Eli's tiny hand as we ducked behind an old gas station on the outskirts of town. My heart was pounding, my body trembling, but I couldn't stop. Not now. Eli clung to my arm, shivering. Grandma, he whispered, is Mommy okay? My throat tightened. I wanted to tell him yes. I wanted to lie and say she'd follow us soon. But I couldn't. I just couldn't. I pulled him close, wrapped my arms around him and whispered, She's very brave, sweetheart. She wanted to make sure you were safe. He nodded, his lip quivering, and then leaned against me, exhausted. As dawn began to break, I knew we couldn't stay there. Whoever those men were, they would come looking for us. And I needed to know what Daniel had gotten himself into before his death. I went through the only thing Emily had managed to shove into my hands. Before the chaos, a small, weathered backpack. Inside, there was a folded photograph of Daniel holding Eli as a baby, and a USB drive taped behind the picture. My heart skipped. The files? I stared at the drive, my fingers trembling. Could this really be what those men were after? I found an old public library that opened early. We slipped inside quietly. I sat Eli at a nearby table with a juice box from my bag and logged onto a dusty computer. I inserted the USB drive. At first, there was nothing but folders, hundreds of them, each labeled with strange names. Aurelia Project, Port 47, Confidential 2020. I clicked one. Documents opened, government contracts, payment records, names of companies I'd never heard of. My son had been working for a security tech firm before his death, but this was something darker. There were files showing money transfers from unknown accounts, emails between high-level executives about data suppression, and even surveillance, reports on ordinary families. My son wasn't just an engineer, he was a whistleblower. I scrolled faster, my stomach turning. One document had Daniel's name on it. Subject: D. Harris compromised. Termination approved. Termination. That word froze me. Daniel had discovered something he wasn't supposed to, and they'd killed him for it. Suddenly, the sound of the library door creaking made my blood run cold. 2 men entered, scanning the room. One of them looked familiar, the same man with the leather jacket from last night. I shut the laptop quickly, snatched the USB, and whispered to Eli, "We have to go." We slipped out through the side door, my hands trembling as I gripped the boy's hand. My mind raced. I needed help, someone who could protect us. I thought of my older son, Michael. We hadn't spoken in years after Daniel's death tore the family apart. But now he was the only one I could trust. We found an old bus stop near the highway. As the morning sun rose, I pulled my phone out and dialed Michael's number, praying he would answer. After 3 rings, his voice came through, cautious and cold. "Mom, why are you calling me?" "Michael," I whispered, glancing over my shoulder. "I don't have time to explain everything. I'm with Daniel's son." Silence. Then, "What did you just say?" "His son," I repeated, my voice cracking. "Daniel had a child, Michael. And there are people after him. They killed Emily." "Mom, where are you?" "At the bus station near Clearwater Road," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Please, you have to come get us. We're not safe." "Stay there," he said quickly. "Don't talk to anyone." "I'm coming." As I hung up, I noticed Eli staring up at me. "Grandma," he asked softly, "are the bad people going to find us again?" I bent down, brushing the hair from his forehead. "Not if we keep moving," I said. "We just have to be brave a little longer." He nodded, trying to smile through his fear. "Like Daddy?" My heart broke again, but I nodded. "Yes, sweetheart. Just like Daddy." The bus rumbled in the distance, and for the first time in days, I felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe Michael could help us uncover the truth. Maybe this nightmare could end. But as the bus pulled up and we climbed aboard, I noticed a dark SUV parked across the street. 2 men were inside, watching. One of them lifted a phone to his ear, eyes locked on us. I froze. They'd already found us. The bus pulled away slowly, its rumble drowning out my heartbeat. But my eyes stayed fixed on the black SUV in the distance. I could see the silhouettes of the men through the tinted windows. One of them raised his phone, speaking rapidly. Watching our bus merge onto the main road. They knew. They were following. I pulled Eli close to me, lowering my head so the driver wouldn't notice my trembling hands. My thoughts were spinning. Every mile we drove felt like a fragile thread keeping us alive. After an hour, the bus reached the outskirts of town. My phone buzzed. It was Michael. "Mom, where are you now?" "Heading north," I whispered. "There's a diner up ahead. We'll stop there." "Good," he said. "Don't talk to anyone. I'll be there in 30 minutes. The bus stopped in front of a small roadside diner. Half empty, the smell of coffee and rain filling the air. I held Eli's hand tightly as we stepped off. I tried to appear calm, but inside I was unraveling. We sat in a booth near the window. Eli sipped a milkshake quietly, his eyes still heavy with sadness and confusion. I stared at the road, watching every passing car. Terrified one of them would slow down. 15 minutes passed, then 20. No Michael. And just when I began to lose hope, I saw a familiar car pull up. Silver, dusty, but unmistakable. Michael stepped out, older than I remembered, his hair streaked with gray. He looked at me through the glass, confusion and fear in his eyes. I stood, my knees weak. He came inside quickly, wrapping his arms around me. "Mom," he said, voice cracking. "What's going on? You said Daniel's son?" I stepped aside, revealing Eli. Michael's eyes widened. For a moment he didn't move. Then he knelt down slowly, staring at the boy. He looks just like Daniel, I finished softly. Eli tilted his head. Are you my uncle? Michael blinked, tears forming. Yeah, kiddo, I guess I am. For a moment, there was silence, the kind that feels like the world itself is holding its breath. But then Michael turned back to me. Mom, you need to tell me everything. Start from the beginning. I told him everything. The grave, the woman, the secret files, the men, Emily's death. His face went pale with every word. When I finished, he leaned back, running a hand through his hair. I knew Daniel was in trouble before he died, he said quietly. He called me once, months before the accident. He said someone was watching him. He asked if I could hold on to something for him. I froze. Did you? Michael nodded. A hard drive. He mailed it to me, said it was insurance. I never opened it. I thought it was just his work. My breath caught. Michael. That could be the rest of the files. Before we could say another word, the bell over the diner door rang. 2 men walked in, leather jackets, cold eyes. Michael's expression hardened. Mom, take Eli, go out the back. I grabbed Eli's hand, heart pounding. We slipped behind the counter as Michael stood, blocking the men's view. One of them smiled coldly. You must be the brother. I think you've got the wrong guy, Michael replied, voice calm but tense. The taller man took a step closer. Where's the kid? I didn't wait to hear more. I pushed open the back door and ran into the rain, dragging Eli with me. My shoes splashed through puddles as thunder cracked above. Behind us, I heard shouting, then a gunshot. Eli screamed. I pulled him behind a dumpster, covering his ears. My whole body was shaking. A few seconds later, Michael appeared, panting, his arm bleeding. We have to move, he hissed. We ran toward his car. My hands trembled as I helped Eli climb into the back seat. Michael started the engine, tires screeching as we sped out onto the highway. I looked at him, panic in my voice. What happened in there? He didn't look at me. They know who we are now. They won't stop. Rain battered the windshield as the world blurred past. And then, as lightning flashed, Michael's voice cracked softly, almost broken. Mom, there's something else you should know. I turned to him, fear creeping up my spine. What? He swallowed hard. Daniel wasn't just exposing corruption. He was part of it. The words hit me like a knife. What are you talking about? I whispered. Michael's grip tightened on the wheel. Before he tried to make it right, he helped them build the system that ruined lives. That's why they killed him, because he wanted to destroy what he'd helped create. I sat there, frozen, as Eli slept in the back seat, his little hand clutching the photo of his father, the man I'd raised, the boy I'd loved, the son I'd buried. And now, I wasn't sure I ever really knew him at all. Rain poured down in heavy sheets as Michael's car sped through the night, wipers struggling to clear the glass. The road ahead blurred, dark and endless. My mind was spinning, every memory of Daniel flashing before my eyes. His laugh, his childhood, the way he used to fix broken toys just to make me smile. And now this truth, that he wasn't just a victim, but a participant in something monstrous. Michael, I whispered, voice trembling. What do you mean he helped them? Helped who? Michael's jaw tightened. The company was called Virex Systems. They built surveillance technology, stuff that could track people's movements, their communications, even their families. Daniel was part of the team that designed it. But when he realized they were using it to spy on innocent people, he tried to pull out. They didn't let him. I felt sick, so he tried to stop them. He nodded grimly. And that's when he started collecting evidence. Those files you found, they're proof. Proof that the company funneled money into illegal operations, manipulated governments, destroyed reputations. If this information ever goes public, it could bring powerful people down. I looked back at Eli, asleep in the back seat, clutching Daniel's photo to his chest. The innocence in his face tore through me. They killed his parents to keep it hidden, I said quietly. Michael nodded. And now they'll come for him. And anyone who knows. The road curved sharply as lightning illuminated the thick forest ahead. Michael turned off the main highway, driving down a narrow dirt path. We can't go home, he said. They'll track us. There's an old cabin near the lake. Dad used to take us there when we were kids. It's isolated. No cameras, no signal. I nodded, clutching Eli's hand. Let's go there. As we drove, silence filled the car, the heavy, suffocating kind that makes your chest ache. I wanted to scream, to cry, to ask why all of this had happened. But all I could do was stare out the window, watching raindrops race each other down the glass. When we finally reached the cabin, it looked exactly as I remembered. Small, wooden, the porch creaking in the wind. We hurried inside, dripping wet. Michael locked the door behind us and started a fire in the old stone fireplace. I laid Eli on the couch, covering him with a blanket. He stirred but didn't wake. His tiny hand reached for mine even in his sleep. Michael sat across from me, holding the hard drive he'd kept hidden for years. "This is it," he said. "Everything Daniel wanted the world to see." I looked at him. "What happens if we open it?" He met my eyes. "Then we'll know the truth." He plugged it into his laptop. The screen flickered, then loaded a single file labeled, "To my family." I gasped. It was a video. Daniel appeared on the screen, tired, unshaven, but alive. His eyes, once bright and full of mischief, were clouded with regret. "If you're watching this," he began, his voice shaky, "then I'm probably gone. Mom, Michael, I didn't want to drag you into this. I thought I could fix it myself. But I was wrong." I felt my throat close as I covered my mouth. "I worked for people who promised to make the world safer," Daniel continued. "But what we built became a weapon, one that could destroy lives. I tried to expose them, but they found out. Emily and we ran. I sent our son away to keep him safe. His name is Eli. He's innocent. He deserves better than this." Tears blurred my vision. My son's voice, his confession, it was both agony and relief. "If you find this, please protect him. Don't trust anyone from Virex. They have people everywhere, in law enforcement, the media, even politics. Michael, I left one final key hidden with someone you can trust. My friend. Dr. Reeves, he knows how to decrypt the data." Michael paused the video. "Dr. Reeves," he said. "I remember that name. He used to come over when we were kids." I nodded slowly. "Then he might still be alive." Before we could say more, the faint sound of tires crunching on gravel broke the silence. Michael's eyes widened. He closed the laptop and motioned for me to stay quiet. We moved to the window, headlights cutting through the rain. A black SUV stopped at the edge of the driveway. "They found us," Michael whispered. I grabbed Eli, holding him tight as fear surged through me. "What do we do?" Michael loaded the files onto a second drive, shoving it into my hand. "Take Eli, go out the back, follow the old trail down to the lake. There's a boat. Get as far away as you can." I shook my head. "Not without you." He looked at me with eyes full of love and pain. "I'll hold them off, Mom. I won't let them take him." Before I could stop him, he kissed my forehead, turned, and ran toward the door as the first gunshot shattered the night. I screamed his name, "Michael!" But it was too late. The sound of bullets and rain filled the air as I fled into the darkness, clutching Eli close to my chest, praying we'd live long enough to uncover the truth. Behind us, the cabin burned, lighting up the night like a final goodbye. And for the first time I realized, the truth wasn't just dangerous. It was deadly. The forest was a blur of rain, smoke, and darkness. My lungs burned as I ran, holding Eli close against my chest. Behind us, the cabin crackled and hissed, flames rising higher, reflecting off the wet trees like ghosts of the past. Every step felt heavier, but I didn't dare stop. Not now. Not when Michael was still inside. Eli's little arms clung to my neck. "Grandma," he whispered through tears, "where's Uncle Michael?" I couldn't answer. The lump in my throat was too heavy to swallow. I just whispered, "He's brave, sweetheart. He's making sure we're safe." Thunder rolled above us, shaking the earth. I followed the narrow trail, toward the lake, the one our family used to hike when Daniel and Michael were boys. Back then, it was a place of laughter, of skipping stones and roasting marshmallows. Now it felt like a path through hell. Branches tore at my arms, mud splashed up my legs, and my breath came in short, ragged gasps. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see headlights cutting through the trees. But all I saw was firelight fading into the distance, and darkness swallowing everything else. Finally, the trees parted, and the lake appeared vast, black, and silent. The old wooden boat was still there, tied to a half-broken dock. I set Eli down gently, my hands shaking. "We're going to take a little boat ride, okay?" I whispered. He nodded, wiping his face with his sleeve. "Will Daddy be there?" Tears stung my eyes. "He'll always be with you, my love, always." I untied the rope and pushed the boat into the water, climbing in with Eli. My muscles ached as I rowed with everything I had left. The rain hit my face like needles. The lake rippled endlessly ahead of us, our only escape. Halfway across, I stopped. The cabin on the hill was now nothing but a glow, orange against the black sky. "Michael," I whispered. A gunshot echoed faintly. My hands froze around the oar. I wanted to turn back. I wanted to run to him. But I knew what he would have wanted, for me to save the boy. I rowed harder, tears mixing with the rain. When we reached the other side, I dragged the boat onto shore and collapsed beside it, shaking. Eli crawled into my arms, his tiny voice trembling. "Grandma, I'm scared." "I know," I whispered, pressing his head against my chest. "But we're gonna be okay, I promise." After a while, when the rain softened, I looked at the flash drive Michael had given me, still clenched in my fist. Everything Daniel died for was inside this tiny thing. Somewhere out there, Dr. Reeves had the key to decrypt it. And if we could find him, maybe, just maybe, this nightmare would end. We walked for hours along the lakeside, guided only by the faint glow of dawn. My legs felt like they'd collapse. But every time I looked at Eli, I found a new strength. By morning, we reached a small rural gas station. The old man behind the counter looked at me with pity. Soaked clothes, dirt-streaked face, a child clinging to my hand. "You okay, ma'am?" I hesitated. "We just had an accident. Is there a phone I can use?" He nodded toward the corner. "By the window." I picked up the dusty receiver and dialed the number from Daniel's old notebook. The one labeled Dr. Reeves, emergency contact. It rang once, twice. Then a tired, cautious voice answered. "Hello? Dr. Reeves?" I whispered. "My name is Margaret Harris. I'm Daniel's mother." Silence, then a sharp inhale. "Dear God, Margaret, you shouldn't be calling me. They're still looking for you." "I know," I said. "But I have Daniel's files, and his son." Another pause. Then his voice changed, urgent, determined. "Listen carefully. You need to get to me. I'm in Tallahassee. There's a safe house at the old university lab. Don't go near any main roads. They're monitoring everything." "I'll find you," I said firmly. "Just tell me how." He gave me directions, a series of back routes, through small towns and abandoned roads. As I scribbled them down, Eli tugged at my sleeve, whispering, "Grandma, someone's outside." I turned. Through the window, a black SUV slowed as it passed the station. My blood ran cold. "They found us," I whispered. "Margaret," Dr. Reeves said quickly, "get out now. Don't use your phone again. Drive north. I'll be waiting." I hung up, grabbed Eli, and bolted for the back door. The rain had stopped, but the air felt heavier, as if the world itself was holding its breath. We ran through the field behind the gas station, tall grass brushing against our legs. The sound of an engine roared behind us. Eli stumbled, and I lifted him, pushing forward with every ounce of strength left in me. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Ahead, an old pickup truck sat parked near a barn. The keys were still in the ignition. I threw the flash drive on the seat, buckled Eli in, and slammed my foot on the pedal. The truck roared to life. As we tore down the dirt road, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw 2 SUVs following. But this time, I wasn't the same woman who'd started this journey at a gravesite. This time, I was a mother fighting for redemption, and a grandmother willing to burn the world down to save what little of her family remained. The truck's old engine roared beneath me as I sped down the winding dirt road, mud splattering across the windshield. The rain had turned into a light drizzle, but the air was thick with tension. In the rearview mirror, the black SUVs followed relentlessly, 2 shadows of death that refused to fade. Eli sat beside me, clutching Daniel's photo against his chest. His eyes were wide but silent, too afraid to speak. I could feel his tiny heartbeat racing through the air. "Hold on, sweetheart," I said, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "We're almost there." The road curved sharply, leading us into a narrow path surrounded by thick pine trees. I turned off the headlights, letting the darkness swallow us. The tires skidded over wet leaves, but somehow we stayed on the road. The SUVs behind slowed, their lights sweeping across the trees. I took a deep breath, my mind flashing back to Daniel's video. His words echoed in my head, "If you find this, protect Eli." That's what I was doing. That's all that mattered now. After 20 long minutes of silence and adrenaline, I saw the faint glow of a sign ahead. "Tallahassee, University Research Grounds, closed." The metal gate was rusted, but it had been forced open long ago. I drove through. The old university lab loomed like a ghost from another era. Brick, walls cracked with age, windows boarded up, the smell of damp earth in the air. I parked behind the building, hidden from the road, and turned off the engine. Eli looked up at me. "Grandma, is this where the good man is?" "Yes," I whispered. "The man who knew your daddy." We stepped out, our shoes crunching against the gravel. My hands shook as I knocked on the heavy metal door, the sound echoing through the hallways beyond. For a moment there was silence, then the faint sound of bolts unlocking. The door creaked open. A tall, gray-haired man with tired eyes stood there, holding a flashlight. "Margaret," he said softly, almost disbelieving. "You actually made it." I nodded, holding Eli close. "Dr. Reeves?" He gestured us inside. "Quickly, they're close." We entered a large lab room filled with old computers, scattered papers, and dust-covered monitors. He bolted the door behind us and turned on a small lamp. "You have it?" he asked. I held up the flash drive. "Everything." He exhaled, almost in relief. "Then we can end this." He plugged the drive into a computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. The screen lit up with Daniel's encrypted files. Numbers, codes, and diagrams filled the display. "This," Reeves said, pointing, "is the core algorithm, the system Daniel helped build. It can access every surveillance network in the country." When he realized how much control they had, he created a backdoor key, a failsafe, so he could shut it down. I frowned. "So he wasn't part of them anymore?" Reeves shook his head. "No, he turned against them. That's why they killed him. But before he died, he gave me part of the key and left the rest with you." He turned to me, eyes burning with urgency. "We can finish what he started, Margaret. We can expose them all." Before I could respond, a sound shattered the silence, the crunch of tires outside. Reeves froze. "They found us." Eli clung to my leg. My heart dropped into my stomach. Reeves pulled open a hidden door behind a row of old filing cabinets. "There's a tunnel that leads to the maintenance shed. Take the boy and the drive. I'll hold them off." I grabbed his arm. "No! You'll be killed!" He smiled sadly. "I made a promise to your son." It's time I kept it. Before I could argue, gunfire erupted outside, short, sharp bursts that echoed like thunder through the walls. Reeves pushed me toward the tunnel. "Go now!" I crouched down, holding Eli's hand tightly as we crawled through the narrow, dark passage. The air was damp and cold. Every noise from above, every shout, every shot made my chest tighten. When we reached the other side, the shed was barely standing, its roof caved in and covered in ivy. I could see headlights through the trees. They were everywhere. Eli looked up at me, terrified. "Grandma, what if they catch us?" I knelt down, holding his face gently. "Then we fight, baby. We don't give up. Your daddy didn't, and neither will we." I could still hear Reeves shouting in the distance, and then suddenly, silence. I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. He was gone. Another life lost to the truth. But I couldn't stop, not now. I ran toward the back of the shed, where a broken truck sat rusting in the weeds. Miraculously, the keys were still hanging in the ignition. I turned them, and the engine sputtered to life. I drove through the trees, keeping the lights off, my heart pounding with every bump and turn. The horizon was beginning to glow, the first light of dawn breaking through. And in that faint light I made a silent vow. They'd taken my sons. They'd taken Emily. They'd burned everything I loved to ashes. But they would not take him. I glanced at Eli, asleep again, clutching Daniel's photo. And I whispered to the morning air, "This ends with me." The sun broke over the Florida, horizon like a wound, bleeding gold and crimson across the sky. The truck rattled down the last stretch of the forest road until I saw the sign that said, "Welcome to Cedar Bay." A quiet coastal town, small, sleepy, the kind of place where people still trusted each other. I needed that. I needed somewhere to breathe, to hide, and to think. Eli stirred awake beside me. His face was pale, his eyes heavy with fear and exhaustion. "Grandma," he whispered, "are we safe now?" I forced a smile, though my hands were trembling on the wheel. "For now, sweetheart. We're safe for now." I pulled into an old gas station. The place looked deserted. One pump, a small store, and a payphone by the road. I parked the truck and stepped outside, feeling the salt in the air. I looked around. No black SUVs, no men in suits, no gunfire. Just the hum of the ocean breeze. Inside the store, a frail old man sat behind the counter. He looked up, squinting at me. "You look like you've been through hell, lady." I gave him a small, tired smile. "You could say that." He handed me a cup of coffee, his hands shaking slightly. "On the house. You look like you need it." I thanked him and used the payphone near the door. I dialed a number I hadn't called in over a decade, an old friend of Daniel's, a journalist named Laura Chambers. She used to work for a national paper until she vanished from the headlines. Daniel once told me, "If something ever happens to me, she'll know what to do." The phone rang twice before her voice came through, cautious but sharp. "Hello?" "Laura," I said, my voice cracking. "It's Margaret, Daniel's mother." There was silence, then a sharp inhale. "Margaret? My God, where have you been?" "No time," I said. "I have the files, the ones Daniel left behind." Her tone changed instantly, professional, focused. "You have them?" "Margaret, that's evidence. The proof the world never saw." I looked out at the truck where Eli sat watching the seagulls. "I need to make it public, before they find me." Laura paused. "Come to Clearwater. There's a safe house near the pier. I can broadcast the files live from there. It's your best chance." I nodded even though she couldn't see me. "We'll be there by nightfall." When I hung up, the old man behind the counter gave me a strange look. "You sure you're okay, lady?" I took Eli's hand and smiled faintly. "We will be." The drive to Clearwater felt like driving through memories, the beaches. Daniel loved the roads we'd driven together when he was just learning to drive. I could almost hear his laughter in the wind. By the time we reached the pier, the sun had vanished, and the ocean shimmered under a blanket of stars. Laura was waiting, older, weary, but her eyes still sharp. She hugged me tight. "You look just like him." I handed her the flash drive. He wanted this out there, the truth. She connected it to her laptop. The screen filled with Daniel's files, names, codes, emails, financial records, video clips, all proof of a massive surveillance program, one that turned millions of ordinary lives into data for control. Laura hit record on a live stream. "This," she said, "is the story Daniel Harris died protecting. The story they tried to erase." She turned to me. "You should speak, Margaret. Tell them what they did." I looked into the camera, my heart pounding. "My name is Margaret Harris. My son was Daniel Harris, a systems analyst for Virex Industries. When he realized the truth about their program, he tried to stop it. They silenced him. But his legacy lives on, in these files, and in his son, Eli." I felt tears welling as I continued. "If you're watching this, remember, truth costs something, but silence costs more." Laura stopped recording, her hands trembling. "It's done. It's online. The world will see it." At that exact moment, the sound of engines roared in the distance. Black SUVs again, headlights slicing through the night. "Go!" Laura shouted. "Take the boy and run. I'll hold them off." I grabbed Eli and ran toward the docks. The wind was fierce, waves crashing violently against the wooden planks. Behind us I heard gunfire, sharp, chaotic, echoing through the night. We reached the end of the pier. There was nowhere left to go. I held Eli tight as he cried into my chest. Then, in the distance, I saw flashing lights, police sirens. Someone had reported the shots. The SUVs screeched to a halt as officers flooded the pier, shouting commands. The men in black froze. It was over. For the first time in years, I exhaled. They couldn't hide anymore. Daniel's truth was out there. His story, his courage, alive in every headline, every whisper across the internet. Eli looked up at me, his small face lit by the sirens. "Grandma, did Daddy win?" I smiled through my tears. "Yes, sweetheart, he did." The next morning, as the world woke to Daniel's story, governments in chaos, companies denying everything, I sat on the beach with Eli watching the sunrise. The wind carried the sound of the waves and the faint cry of gulls. I felt peace for the first time in years. "Your daddy was brave," I whispered. "He believed the truth could heal, no matter how much it hurt." Eli smiled. "Like you, Grandma." And I finally allowed myself to cry, not from grief, but from relief. Because I had kept my promise. Daniel's secret was no longer buried. His son would grow up free. And I had finally found forgiveness for the lies, the pain, and even myself. Thank you for watching this emotional and suspenseful story.